Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I am painting a poxwalker. I'm still learning to paint, so any feedback is appreciated. I've already primed this figure using the airbrush and Vallejo Grey. So the base coat that I am applying here is Rakarth Flesh by Citadel, and I'm applying this in thin layers so that all the detail still remains visible. I'm applying this all over the figure. I made my own wet palette but modified it a little bit. Go and check out this video to see how I have done it. So I'm applying small thin layers to make sure that all the details are still visible, and I applied around about 3 thin layers for this colour. The next part of the paint, I've focused on the little poxes on the figure. I've only chosen a certain amount to paint. I've used Mephiston Red to paint these and just blobbing them on like a tiny amount onto each one. I've been really careful on which ones I've chosen, because on a practice run I found that doing all of them made it too much on the figure. For the back areas of the figure, I decided to go with a different kind of colour, which was a glaze. I'm not sure how glazes are meant to work, so if you'd like to tell me in the comment section down below and when you're meant to apply glazes, that would be much appreciated. So for the back area, like I've said, I'm using a bloodletter glaze to see how it will turn out compared to using just Mephiston Red. Overall, I actually prefer the outcome of using the bloodletter glaze than using the Mephiston Red. I thought it gave it that more of a bloody colour, and it also gave it that more like of a blood feel, like, because it was thin and you could still see bits of the pox showing through. Unlike with the Mephiston Red, it blobbed it out too much. For the next part, I'm going to be painting the grenade, and for this I'm using a Baden Black to start with, and then I'm using really thin layers just to get an even coverage and so that the detail doesn't disappear. For the chain that's attached to the grenade, I am applying a thin coat of lead belcher just to make sure that it doesn't blob into the gaps in between each of the chain loops. What I'm doing next to the grenade is painting the little raised bits, which are like square bits, with Elysian green, just to give it a bit more of a definition and just so it's not just a solid colour of a Baden Black. So next I'm starting to move on to the belt section and the clothes, like the fabric section. So what I'm doing for the belt strap is I'm using Mornfang Brown and Gorthor Brown on the pouches and on the cloth drape on the front of the figure. I just applied really small thin layers of paint to this. It took about 2 or 3 layers to get a good even coverage without losing any of the detail. For the belt buckle, I just applied some Baden Black in really thin layers. I know it doesn't look like it here because it pooled a bit, so I just wiped away the excess with a clean, dry brush. So I just applied it with thin layers so all the details on the belt buckle stayed. For the bones on the top of the poxwalker, I mixed Rakarth flesh and Gorthor brown to make my desired colour. I can't really give you measurements because I just winged it basically. So I'd mix these together to make a bony colour, or a colour that differentiated from the skin of the poxwalker, and I applied 2 to 3 thin layers of paint to them because there's bits of detail in between them. Next I'm applying a wash that I created. I've just followed a YouTube video for this. It's basically using a mixture of 2 different coloured inks. For this one I used black and brown and watered them down with distilled water, added a small amount of painting medium and also some washing up liquid, and applied it to the grenade chain, the belt and the cloth on the front of the figure. So by making my own wash, it gave me a small mason jar full, compared to the size that you get with the Citadel shades. For the body of the poxwalker, I applied Agrak's Earthshade by Citadel and stupidly applied 2 layers all over the figure, which made it turn out to become really dark, but don't worry, I fixed this, as you will see in the next clip. As you can see here, applying 2 layers of Agrak's Earthshade turned out to a really dark figure, but don't worry, I fixed this by dry brushing a small amount of Rakarth flesh to the figure, so mainly trying to catch the raised parts of the figure so that the shade was left in the recesses. So to dry brush, all you do is just apply a smallish amount of paint onto your paintbrush and then you wipe it on a kitchen towel to get rid of all the excess paint, and then whatever's left on the brush you just gently wipe it over the figure and it'll only hit the raised areas. So now that I finished the main body, I moved on to the base and applied Citadel texture paint, which is Stifland Mud. I think this is an old colour, but I got given it so I just used it. This gives the figure more definition to an extent when you apply a texture paint to the base. For this part of the base I just applied a bit of Gorthor brown just to give it a little bit more definition to the base, and it makes it look a bit more fuller. So once I finished with the texture paint and it dried, I applied a dry brush layer of Zanzi Desert just to give it a bit more of a colour rather than just a solid brown. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also to comment any feedback in the comment section down below, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more geek related content and also more miniature painting videos. Thanks all for watching and I'll see you all in the next video.